devices. So.
Great. Welcome. Andrew.
Yeah, hi, I'm Andrew Zeller. I'm a first year bioengineering student at UCSD. I also heard of this program by a class I was taking, which is Bioengineering 1. And so, yeah.
Great. Sounds good. Lastly, is it Shalina?
Yep. Hey guys, I'm Shalina. I'm a first year bioengineering major at UCSD. I heard of this event because I'm involved in BMES. And I came to this specific breakout room because I'd like to hopefully get involved in like designing or making medical devices in the future. Because like aside from bioengineering, I'm also interested in like the mechanical aspect.
Great. Sounds good. Um, Maybe Howard, we could give them a quick introduction of ourselves before we jump into the slides. You think that works?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I'll start. My name is Michael. My current title with Medtronic is Senior Project Manager. Before that, I was a Senior R&D Engineer and a Senior Mechanical Design Engineer. I joined Medtronic back in 2015 and have stayed with the company since. I've worked on a whole slew of product, including pacemakers, defibrillators, and catheter-based therapy devices. And then later I'll show you one of the devices that I'm supporting right now, which is a stent-based clot retriever. My educational background, I did bioengineering biotechnology at UCSD before finishing with a master's in mechanical engineering at Carnegie Mellon. All right, Howard.
Yeah, well, I'll go through my background. So I graduated UCSD 2017 with undergrad in bioengineering biotech, and I got a job at Medtronic late 2017 as well, and started working there since. So Medtronic will be my first actually like real world job, and it's been awesome. I've been working on different type of heart valves, either the surgical valves where you have to do open heart surgery, or the transcatheter heart valves where you can do a minimal invasive surgery, I guess. So that's me. Okay, then I'll go ahead and get started on the intro. Let me go ahead and share screen 2. So I heard from everyone in this introduction that everyone's kind of interested in just figuring out what is device itself, and am I on the right path in the career to figure out, is this what I'm majoring in, that what I want to do. So I'll try to tailor to that. So with that, I'll go ahead and go through these slides. So basically, Medtronic got started with Earl Bakken, which is the dude on the right. He's really awesome in that back in 1940s, there was the pacemaker, but it was hooked up to actual battery. But there was a electrical outage, and patients are actually hooked up, and they need a pacemaker regardless whether there's electricity or not. So he ended up figuring out how to hook up a battery to the pacemaker and ended up making it work. And that was, the world's basically first med device on pacemakers. And now from there, it basically blew up to this whole worldwide company. And the mission itself is one of the things I like to kind of focus on, as well as just from experience, that to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. And that's really our mission. And everyone I worked with has been following that as their top priority, and putting patient health on the top of every single question, and work towards that since. So that's one of the things I really like about Medtronic. Going down, kind of went a little bit over already, that Medtronic is a worldwide company. We have over 90,000 employees, and 10,000 plus scientists and engineers. And in fact, Michael and I here are engineers. And let's see, one of the things I want to mention is that Medtronic do tend to invest quite a bit in R&D. Just to the concept, I guess, was that just try to growing as much as in R&D, because that's basically bring us competitively compared to other companies where we will have those cutting edge technologies and help us have that edge. and going down. So since we're a worldwide company, we have tons and tons of different type of devices. If you follow this flowchart here, you'll see that there are different devices as we hop one to the other. So from 1957, we have the battery operated external pacemaker. And then as we go on further, we expand our scope. And then in 1977, we have a heart valve. And going down, we have diabetes care and spinal care and neural stimulation. So as you can see, there's a whole slew of things. And now in 2016, we kind of come around the whole circle where back in 1957, we have this big battery-powered pacemaker. But in 2016, we have this world's smallest pacemaker, the Micra, and that's basically the pacemaker now to have. But yeah.
And Howard, if you flip back to the first slide, the picture of Earl, you can see he's holding the smallest pacemaker on one hand and his original on the other hand. Now, the original one is not an implantable pacemaker, it's just too big, but the small one actually goes directly into your heart. So quite the leap in about 50 years or so.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome, this picture. Okay, going down, so our global presence. So it just shows you that we're everywhere, but I'll show you the next slide. Where actually, for us in the US, we actually have a lot of different locations indicated by the yellow circle. I'm actually from Santa Ana, which I should put a circle here, but it's not here. There's another spot in Irvine, which is where Michael is at, and whole other. And as you can see there, each side we actually separate by what kind of disease we're going to be treating. So for my site in Santa Ana, we'll be treating the heart disease, and specifically we'll be handling the transcatheter heart valves. And Michael is in the Irvine location where he focused on. Okay, so from there, I'll go ahead and start my piece. So today I have a little bit about my product, and I will also show you a quick demonstration of it. Cool. So today I'll show you guys these Evolut transcatheter heart valve. So compared to, I guess, traditional, I don't know if I could show you. So if you are eating, try not to, open heart surgery. So just gonna Google open heart surgery. So as you can see, it's pretty invasive, where you have to cut open the rib cage and go all the way to the heart. And the problem with that is not just that it's super invasive, but also the recovery time. And that's a huge downside, where compared to something more as minimal invasive as possible, that will get you out of the hospital as quickly as possible. That's the goal. So as we advance through, for a patient that is available to receive the transcatheter heart treatments, they'll be able to receive the benefit of that. So just trying to show you open heart surgery here, and then I'll go ahead and jump into this transcatheter. So I'll play this video, but in the middle of it, I'll kind of pause it and kind of describe to you what it is.
The platform delivers unsurpassed hemodynamics, maintains the lognosis.
So this is basically the Evolut heart valve. So you can see there's this metal frame. It's made of material called nitinol. It is a temperature memory metal, which I'll also show you live here. And you will see that there's tissue kind of around the frame itself. It's within, and I'll show you a little bit more.
The Evolut Pro system builds on the proven platform of the Core Valve and Evolut R systems and their unique design. A supraangular, self-expanding nitinol frame with a porcine pericardial tissue valve. The Evolut platform delivers unsurpassed hemodynamics, maintains the lowest delivery profile, and is indicated to treat the broadest annulus range on the market. As the TAVR therapy evolves, paravalvular leak remains a critical performance metric for patient outcomes. The Medtronic Evolut Pro system is designed to provide advanced sealing. A porcine pericardial tissue wrap is added around the outer sealing zone of the nitinol frame, which, combined with a platform design, provides advanced sealing.
So from here, you may be asking the question, why the heck do I need this? And the answer is that as you can be getting old and your body part just falling apart, and now your heart valve leaflet, as you saw earlier, right here, these leaflets are actually failing, and it's no longer sealing properly. So now you have blood leaking through these leaflets, and you can have regurgitation. What regurgitation is, basically you're not completely pumping the oxygenated blood through these leaflets and keep it from going forward. And when that happens, you could maybe be running out of breath, just taking like a flight of stairs, or just kind of those type of symptoms you'll see. And that's the thing about it. Sometimes you don't even notice, and sometimes you go in the hospital, get checked up, and you see, oh shoot, my heart valve is just bad, and I need a replacement. And those can be type of things that's needed. Another type is you eat a lot of bad food, and you kind of clog up your body, and now your leaflet tissue also can be calcified, which I think it will show in a later part of the video.
As it enters the vessel, combined with a Evolute Pro system with an integrated inline sheath.
So here, it's pretty neat. It shows that there's different entries of where you can access the vessels and go and deliver your device. So in this case, it's actually going for the femoral area.
With an integrated inline sheath.
And notice that there's this tube. This actually already contains the valve actually right here.
Has the lowest delivery profile available. It retains its outer diameter as it enters the vessel and remains at this diameter as it is advanced through the anatomy up to the native annulus, limiting unnecessary vessel expansion. The Enveo Pro delivery system provides control during deployment with the ability to...
And here we go. We can see the calcification here. And sometimes they're not just like this piece. They're actually pretty dramatic and actually impacting on how well these leaflets closes.
To recapture and reposition the valve for accurate placement. The delivery catheter's one-to-one response provides immediate feedback between the deployment knob and movement of the capsule.
Now here, you'll notice this device is actually part of the system, and the delivery device actually is pretty complicated, as you can tell that you snake in this entire tube to the heart. Now where do you want to position and place the heart valve? That could be complicated. So there's going to be a lot of design that goes into here so that physicians and surgeons can actually rotate this to actually place it into the right location. So that's a lot of mechanical design, if you will.
Resulting in a more controlled and predictable deployment. Upon deployment, the frame gradually expands. The Evolute Pro system builds on the predicate design features and is the next generation of the platform for advanced sealing. It's based on three fundamental sealing mechanisms. The flexible, self-expanding nitinol frame conforms and adapts to the native anatomy, sealing at multiple levels. Oversizing and consistent.
So you see, what you're seeing here is basically we inserted the valve through the leaflets and then placed them down. And if you remember from earlier, there are leaflets inside this valve as well. So we effectively just replace the function of these existing native leaflets by having introduced this new valve here.
Radial force enabled the self-expanding frame to gently push outward against the native anatomy, contributing to advanced sealing. The outer porcine pericardial wrap provides added tissue volume between the bioprosthesis and native anatomy to help reduce gaps and provide direct angular contact. Porcine pericardial tissue was specific.
Yep, and now you have a heart valve. So yeah, that's it for my product. I noticed I'm running a little bit over on my time, I guess. Michael, do you want to go over yours first, and then I'll go ahead and I can show some demos?
Sure, yeah, I can go over mine relatively quickly.
Oh, okay. It doesn't have to be that quick.
No.
All right.
My device is much simpler. I think, so my device is called Solitaire Revascularization Device. It's a mouthful. We could just call it Solitaire. I don't know how familiar you guys are with medical devices in general, but what you see on the right, which is a picture of a device, is basically like a stent on a stick, if you may. So what happens, or use the use of this device is for treating active stroke cases. So I mean, I'm sure you guys probably know, but stroke occurs when you have blood clots that travel into your brain. And when that occludes your actual blood vessel, that's when a stroke occurs, right? And it's really critical, obviously, we restore blood flow to the portion of the brain because even a 1 hour delay can mean a person being a vegetable or being fully healthy on track to recover afterwards. So there are a couple of design features on this, but it's a little bit hard to pick out. But I didn't note them down here. There are these platinum marker bands along the device, and I'm going to try to annotate the screen so that you guys can see what I'm trying to say here. But you can see sort of these little fingerling things. I'm just going to highlight a few. But you see these along the length of the device. And what that does is that during X-ray, you can actually see it under fluoroscopy. So I'm going to highlight it in this actual photo on the bottom there. So that's how you or the physician knows where the device is actually in the head, inside the patient's brain. This thing crimps down all the way to 2 mm vessel. So it goes into very, very tiny spaces. There's an overlapping stent design here for those who are interested in mechanical design, which is highlighted over on the right here as well. So you'll notice that it's not a fully closed cell design, but rather it's not fully sealed, right? It just sort of overlaps over each other. And that actually helps this overall, helps the stent to conform to different shapes within the blood vessel. So there's a video next that will quickly go over how the device is actually deployed. Let me clear my annotations. Okay, so it's less distracting. All right, go ahead. Where did the audio go?
A blockage of one of the major blood vessels in the brain.
Does it work now?
Yeah, it does work now. I think you need to unmute though.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And it shows how we perform stroke intervention in patients. When a patient is having a big stroke, there's typically a blockage of one of the major blood vessels in the brain. That blockage is often caused by a blood clot that forms somewhere else, like in the heart or in the carotid artery in the neck, and breaks off and travels up and plugs up one of the main arteries going to the brain. So that part of the brain is at risk of dying because of the lack of oxygen and nutrients from the blockage from the blood flow. In situations like this, we can intervene. We can go in from the femoral artery in the leg with a catheter, as you can see here, place it in the carotid artery in the neck, that's the blue catheter. Through that catheter, we take up a smaller catheter, a microcatheter, and we catheterize the arteries inside the brain, the carotid artery, and into the middle cerebral artery. You can see the clot within the middle cerebral artery, which supplies blood to that half of the brain. So we bring up our microcatheter all the way up into the middle cerebral artery in the brain and cross the blockage. Once we're across the blockage, we bring up a mechanical thrombectomy device, which is kind of a stent on a stick kind of configuration. It's a stent-like device that we unsheath within the clot in the blockage. You see the stent is opening up and actually restoring blood flow immediately. We then give it about 5 minutes, allowing the radial force of the stent to open up outward and allowing the clot to extrude within the lumen or inside of the stent. After the 5 minutes is over, we inflate a balloon in the carotid artery in the neck, which arrests flow, and then we pull back the stent retriever device with the clot entangled inside it into that balloon catheter, The purpose of inflating the balloon in the carotid artery in the neck is to reverse flow from the brain arteries and into the catheter and out of the patient's body. In this way, any particles that break off from the blood clot within the stent retriever will get sucked out of the patient's body. They don't go out distally and cause more strokes.
And yep, that's pretty much the device. I'm gonna try to get my video to work to show this device, but it's pretty tiny, so bear with me. I'm gonna switch cameras for a second and turn off the virtual background. So let's see, it's a pretty tiny device. Wow, you can't even really see it here, but this is the device that was just shown. You can barely see it against, I'm trying to see, oh, okay, this shirt is pretty dark, but yeah, not very easy to see. It's about an inch or so long and maybe a quarter of an inch wide in diameter, but a pretty tiny device. And this actually goes into a patient's brain. And the doctor basically fishes out a blood clot during an active stroke case using this device. So that's the long and short of it. Howard, you want to show off your device?
Yeah, sure. Okay, how do I do this? Okay. It will ping myself. Okay. So, okay. Okay, so I'll going back to the heart valve, the one you saw in the video. So what I have here is basically the frame of the valve inside a boba straw, if you drink boba. But anyway, so what you also see here is a cup of ice water. So this is actually part of the procedure that every doctor had to go through. So when they first receive the heart valve with the tissue on, they have to actually soak it in ice bath. The reason because is the material that this frame is made of. So as I said before, the nylon material is a temperature sensitive metal, and what it allows it to do is basically under a certain temperature, in this case, ice bath, you can actually push and mold this metal into different shapes. But if you go up to a certain temperature, in this case will be the body temperature, then it will go back to what shape it remembered. So I'll show you here that how it kind of does that. It might be a bit fast, so I guess pay attention. So right now it's in the ice bath in a boba tube. I'm gonna go ahead and place it into the warmer bath, and it should flower out just like the video. If I can do it, kind of. So you can see that. Oh, and that's done. If you missed it, well, that's too bad. But that's that's the frame fully expanded. So notice how small it was inside the ice bath, and if we place back in, you can actually fold it again, kind of.
Yeah, it's shrinking.
You can see that. Okay, so that's a quick demo. So how do we want to do this? Do we? Oh wait. Okay, so we have questions. So I guess we can take some questions, and anything you want to ask. We're engineers here, so we can answer just kind of basic questions or anything like that. And I'm a recent graduate, so is Michael, I guess. So we can answer any career path questions too. So let's see. What happens to? So Andrew asked, what happens to the old tissue? Does it deteriorate or just stay there? So it actually stays there. And I mean, since it's your native tissue, it should not become a I guess foreign material and kind of embolize and all that. But yeah, that's a good question. And I guess one of the thing is that you want to notice there's so much different majors that can come into work at medical device, because we need a lot of different thinking and different criteria to figure out what this is. So for example, this frame itself can involve like material science as well as mechanical engineers. And all that, and as well as biocompatibility. Just you name it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so is there oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, we have all kinds of engineers at Medtronic, so it doesn't really. I mean, some majors lend themselves, maybe more directly to medical device, but that's not to say, say mechanical engineer cannot be in medical device industry. I'm almost fairly certain I was hired because of my mechanical engineering degree, not because of my biomedical engineering or bioengineering degree.
I have a question. What material is that make up the Hurt transcatheter, and how does it react with like temperatures and shrink and then expand as you put into different temperatures?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Um,
Or was that a question for Howard? Maybe
yeah.
Howard, you
Wait,
got it already.
No, would you mind repeating the question?
Oh yeah. So what material that make up the Hurt transcatheter device, and how does it react with temperature change? Like what mechanism that allowed it to
Yeah.
change its shape?
So that's where you guys come in, right? Because in school you'll learn about different type of materials and its properties, and that's what material science majors will figure out what is a good material that, for example, I think later on in bioengineering courses you'll learn a course just kind of tell you basic materials, and maybe something like ceramic where it's kind of like rough and have porous surfaces. But it could be good for cells to live in and grow, those type of things. Or you can have what is it, titanium, where it's slick on the side and it's non-reactive to the body environments. So those are type of attributes you kind of look at and figure out what are some attributes you want in this specific device. Now this material specifically for the frame is actually called nitinol, and that has property that we're looking for, where we can actually manufacture a heart valve and have it into a shape we want it. And as well, at the same time, we can actually make it even smaller to fit inside maybe a size of a pen, I guess. Well, I can show you here. This is actually really thin, a size of a pen, and actually deliver it through people's arteries or veins. And from there, we can actually have the same functions without having such a hard surgery where you have to go all the way to open heart surgery and do all the damage during. So that's why we're picking this material, and turned out to be great.
Yeah, and
the
solitaire device also uses nitinol for its shape memory property as well. Not to the same extent that the heart valve team does it, because the heart valve team wants to deliver something like this tiny, right? But then the ultimate device is like this big. For us, the reason why we want to use a shape memory alloy is because, yes, it does crimp down to a very small size. And when you tune it right at the human body temperature, it expands with just enough force to capture the clot, because it doesn't need to push itself against the clot when you fish it out, right? So nitinol is used quite often actually in medical devices, along with stainless steel, plastics, silicone, so on and so forth. And to end, so Andrew asked another question: at what point in our college life did we figure out specific type of device work that we wanted to do? I can answer this first. So truth be told, I wasn't super picky about what type of devices I wanted to work on. I knew I wanted to do, I knew I wanted to be in the medical device field, but it wasn't very specific where I said, okay, I'm gonna set out and do pacemakers or orthopedics or neurovascular devices, which I'm working on right now. It was more just a general interest in medical device industry, and I sort of tailored my education towards that and my experience towards that. That's not to say if obviously if you have a very specific interest, you can always work towards that right away. I didn't. I just sort of wandered around, and at Medtronic, I've worked on a couple of different type of devices. Started out on pacemakers and then moved adjacently to defibrillators. And when I say defibrillators, I mean implantable ones, not the ones you see in medical drama where they take out a kit and they rub pads and shock people. It's all that, but in the body. I worked on a worked on battery, actually specific battery designs for implantable cardiac monitors. So these are smaller than USB devices that gets implanted right underneath your skin on your chest. That basically what Apple says it can mimic through its EKG monitoring, but but with way higher accuracy, obviously, since it's implanted. And then to now where I'm working on, neurovascular devices, not necessarily implantables anymore, but, life-saving therapies nonetheless.
Yeah, I can go ahead. I guess for me, it's pretty much the same as Michael. I guess if I have to pick a specific device, I guess I would go with something about dialysis. And I always think dialysis is pretty important, and if I ever get a chance, then that's probably the device I want to go through. But I guess it's kind of like right after college, kind of look for any opportunities. I know for sure I'm going to be in medical device just because that's what I want to do. Just be there to help people. And how do you save lives faster than being a surgeon? Just have an idea, actually make it work, and have a device that speed things up and actually be super helpful. And in the long run, that actually dramatically increases the amount of patient you can actually save. So that's, I guess, my the logic behind it. So I'm trying to save as many people as fast as possible, and the med device is the way to go for me. The opportunity came up for med device in Medtronic. That's why I ended up picking it, just because of how close it is for me, and also I guess also the med device grade. So implantable devices are class 3. So I figure why not start at the hardest and go from there, so it can never be kind of outdated at that point.
Yeah, and just to give a quick plug for Medtronic, right? Let me show my screen here. So this is something that I just pulled on Medtronic's website, but you can see there are different categories of diseases, and we have treatment for everything that we've listed.
Design recommendations am I going to make from this study? Then later on, as we get to the end of this, when we have to run summative studies and validation studies to essentially say, here's our final product and it's safe and effective, it's a completely different type of protocol, completely different type of analysis. Maybe I won't do as much design work, but I'll do more like acceptance criteria work. Did we meet our acceptance criteria or not? And now I don't do, a lot of the instructions are already written. So for example, now as we're adding on new features, I'm doing a lot more interaction analysis, usability analysis. How does adding a new workflow going to affect what the surgeons already know about the system? So it's a different type of design work. And also, I think just regular organizational changes, like new people join the team, some people leave. So your role, I feel like it's always just becoming something else. It's almost like, I don't do as much of the reports anymore. I do more of the design work, et cetera, et cetera. So at least in a company like J&J, I feel like every 6 months you're doing something completely different.
Yeah, it's all just basically how mature the product is. So in the beginning, when it's like a prototype, or we have a very high functioning prototype, like in our example, a lot of it is investigational studies. So very quick turnaround, just get in the lab, write something up, run it. And then at the end of that, you write your results and what your test method was. And then you talk to your engineer about, this is what I ran, this is what I found out. And they'll say, oh, well, you did that wrong, or let's try it some other way. And you just really quickly go in the lab, you run it, you write up a report, it gets tracked and traced and all that. But that's like the very beginning. Then as you slowly learn more and more, you get into TMDs, so test method validations, you get into design of experiments and all those kinds of things. And then you have like full-fledged protocols that have these acceptance criteria that Desi alluded to. And you have to show with statistical robustness, that's not just like going in and running something quickly and then showing them what happened. You have to really show that you know what happened and you can prove it. And that's where we're at when it gets to the end of the verification level before it gets to Desi for the validation labs. So the rigor is really fun and fast in the beginning, and then it slows down and it's really serious when it gets to the end.
Yes. But I think something, for example, when I was a student, I used to think that you pick sort of a career and a job, and then you just go to work and you do the same thing every single day. And then that felt really scary because I'm very much like, I just want to do something different every single day. And like, I want to work on 5 different projects. And that's exactly how real life has been. Like, no day is like the other. Even Zoom meetings all day can actually get pretty different and exciting. And you know, like, I feel like my job completely changes every year. But then in terms of like my roles and the things that I'm learning, it's like every month I feel like I'm thrown into a different type of swimming pool that I have to like figure out my way around. So it's very, you never know what you're gonna get.
And then soon we're going to go into more of we call it a sustaining mode, right? So you've got product launch, and before that, you got your front end development work, your investigational stuff, then you've got your launch stuff, and then you've got your sustaining. So how do you have a product on the market and sustain it and improve upon it? So that's where the shift is going to focus after launch sometime this year. So there's going to be a whole bunch of different development things that we learned from this version, whether it be hardware or software, that needs to be improved for the next version or next solution in general, who knows, down the line. So by the end of this year, it'll be really cool to see like what we're doing. We could be doing work on a completely different system or on a specific component, for example. So a lot of stuff will change over the course of a project.
Do you have any challenges working between the US and the EU in terms of requirements, safety, legislation, things like that? Do you have any challenges moving back and forth with the same device?
Ours has been a little bit in the very beginning with language barrier. So it's really hard to talk technical in different languages and understand it. Luckily, our group is amazing at it, but there's some like little things. I still remember this now when I think about it in Zoom meetings. Someone in France will say like, what's the word for this? And like, yes, like that's the word. And it's gone down a lot since then, and it's really been improving, but there'll be little miscommunications was kind of hard. And then for me being on the testing side and being like trying to get results to the engineers in France, I've only got like 4 hours. So I'll come into the lab at 7 a.m., have a quick meeting. This is what they want. And then if I don't get the results that they need by the time they leave the building, then I've got like 6 hours or 4 hours of dead time in the afternoon. So that's for us has been kind of rough, is when you get something, but they're not in the office to talk about it. Luckily, we've got a great team that can make decisions and kind of make a path and say, well, we figured this out, so we chose to do this. Like, what do you guys think about that decision? What do you think about this data set? And then usually, they'll agree, like, oh, that was a good call. But that, for me, that's the hardest thing, is overcoming the time difference when I'm not in the office.
And it's funny how this is a good example of how technology does improve our working lives. Before we used to have Skype, so if you message someone, you would just lose the message. But now that we have Teams, it's more like a regular like WhatsApp chat. So I can now in my own evening, I can message my French coworker and know she's going to see it when she gets there in the morning. So I think that has just improved so much with Teams. I think from regulatory and legislation perspective, so obviously we have to get the 510K clearance here. There's in the EU, there's something like MDR, but at the end of the day, the requirements are the same. And when we test things for usability or electrical standards and all that stuff, we do it to cover all regions in the whole world. So there isn't that much of a difference. Like, we're still designing the same device and we're testing it the same way.
The only thing I'll say is that Japan has really, really strict requirements. So I think typically you want to go with the easier path to get it into the market and understand. And then when we get to Japan, there's a lot of work that has to go into just ensuring that you're 1,000% double checking absolutely everything, because they have really, really strict requirements, and they'll ask for like every single document. And I'm really excited to kind of learn about that, because we've only gone through the FDA. So just going through all the different regulatory bodies is going to be really interesting to see like what they look for.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like we're being pulled back into the main room. But thank you so much. This was super helpful. I learned a lot. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for having us.
So thank you everyone for coming to the industry demonstration panel of TMD. And the next event coming up is Startup from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific time. And you can use the, and also as well at the ethic panel, you can use the Zoom code provided on this slide to join the event. Thank you everyone for coming.
Great, thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. for
Thank
having me.
you.